Greetings, Ben Murray here with another edition of SaaS Metrics School. On my birthday today is so appropriate to talk about the big metric, ARR, our annual recurring revenue. Now, this is a pretty standard metric, of course, but of course can also be very controversial on how we define ARR. And I've talked to a lot of folks in the SaaS world, and it varies widely from how founders define it, how investment firms define it. So let's talk about ARR today because we've got to get this right for many reasons. One, so we understand what our top line ARR number is, of course, and of course, so we can calculate SaaS metrics. And then the ARR number is used in ARR multiple valuation. So we want to have the right ARR going into that valuation. So, what's a slam dunk version of ARR or definition of ARR? Of course, for fixed subscription revenue. So when we contract for fixed MRR, fixed ARR, of course, that is annual recurring revenue. It's fixed. We know we're going to get it via the contracting process. Now, what about variable revenue? And I bucket variable revenue as usage-based processing, transaction, consumption, anything that can change from month to month and is not fixed and locked in. So, what ARR will we include from usage-based or variable revenue? If your contract states a minimum amount of revenue coming from that variable revenue, we are going to include that in the ARR definition. Any variable revenue above that. So if we have the contractual minimum and then say the customer goes over that contractual minimum and that fluctuates month to month, we're not going to include that overage in our ARR number because we can't count on it. So if they're contractual minimums, we'll include it in our ARR. If your variable revenue can go down to zero and can be, whatever number the next month, we're not going to include that in ARR because we can't count on that number. Of course, we may use an adjusted AR number, and I hate to say adjusted. We adjust a lot of metrics, but that'll be another podcast is how we can take credit for that variable revenue. What about services revenue and one-time revenue? So no one-time revenue should be included in our AR definition. Now you may ask, Ben, hey, what about managed services revenue? That's subscription based. But again, that's human powered revenue. I'm not going to include that in my ARR. Now, I may run revenue retention analysis on my managed services revenue, which is appropriate, but I'm not going to include that in my top line ARR number. And finally, ARR valuations. The last couple episodes, I've talked about ARR, I've talked about CAR, valuations, and ARR. But again, really important that we have a well defined ARR number so we can talk about valuations. If we're looking for an exit or if we're looking for growth equity, whatever that might be on the M&A front, we don't want to put an AR number forward that then others discount. And if we thought, man, I'm running at 10 million ARR, but then they start digging into your numbers and they say, hey, really, you're actually 8 million ARR. All this other revenue doesn't count towards your ARR. So we've got to get this defined correctly. We've got to get the revenue categories correct on our SaaS P&L. So make sure you can really define your ARR number because again, that then flows into your metrics, your valuations, how we forecast the business. So we've got to get this right. So a little bit about ARR today. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.